We don't usually cover politics on this program, but we just had the election on Tuesday, the primary election for a lot of different races, and now we have the race for governor with the Democrat Phil Murphy winning as the Democratic candidate and Kim Guadagno as the Republican candidate for governor of New Jersey. So, Guru, I'm going to ask you some politics here. Share with our audience, how do you feel about the candidates at this point in the race?
With all the focus that we've had on Washington, D.C. and Jim Comey, the New Jersey gubernatorial election hasn't really gotten much airtime. So to some degree, I'm happy you asked because I think there's some really important issues here for people in New Jersey to focus in on and figure out what's important to them. I don't think it's any surprise that the favorites from each party won with Phil Murphy and Kim Guadagno, respectively. But I think if we can get away, actually, from, let's say, the hardcore political issues and really focus in on what I believe, anyway, is the most important issue, and that's the state's economy. So let's take a lay of the land right now. Right now, I think we have somewhat of gridlock, right? Because we have a Republican governor, Chris Christie, and we have a strongly Democratic legislature. So, the progress that's really been made is probably pretty minimal. And I think going forward, one of the big issues, or maybe two of the big issues, are going to be taxes and the minimum wage issue. So if you look at where each candidate stands on this, Murphy, the Democrat, has already said he plans on raising taxes, specifically on the rich. He also wants to bring back the estate tax, which is actually scheduled to disappear by 2018. So he's talking about bringing it back before it's even gone. And I really believe that we don't have a revenue problem. I believe we have a spending problem. I've always felt that way. So I don't think that the answer to the economic challenges that we've had in New Jersey is going to be to tax our way out of it. And I just want to bring out another point. Keep in mind that politicians don't get elected by taking things away. That's not how they get elected. They get elected by giving stuff away. And the way you give stuff away is to raise taxes and have money for programs that you can give back to people, particularly people in your district. So that's how I see perhaps one side. And let's look at the other side with the Republican Kim Guadagno. Now, Guadagno's saying she's not going to raise taxes. The problem is more than likely she's going to have a Democratic legislature, so she's not going to be able to get the spending cuts either. So I think that if she is elected, we're probably looking at continued stalemate, and I think that we're going to continue to see financial stress on the state of New Jersey. Now, the other point I want to bring out beyond taxes is this minimum wage issue. I think this is an issue, if Murphy is elected, that is really going to gain some traction. Chris Christie continually vetoed that measure to bring New Jersey's minimum wage up to $15. But that's really going to be big because if Murphy's elected, I think that we are going to see a significant jump in the minimum wage. And just keep in mind that the minimum wage was not meant to support families. It was meant to be a starting point. When you raise minimum wage in order to say, well, we have to pay people a minimum amount in order for them to support the family, there is a trickle up effect. What do I mean by that? Well, people that are currently making $15 an hour, if you're going to make the minimum wage $15 an hour, those people making $15 an hour are going to have to jump to $20 or $25 an hour. The impact on employers, from the small business owner even to significant businesses, it's really going to have a dramatic impact. And what ends up happening from that, King? Businesses have to raise their prices. So it's circuitous. Ultimately, by raising the minimum wage, there is going to be pressure to raise prices across the board. So what we really need here overall, we need to find middle ground for the middle class. And the way you do that is you take the middle path. Okay? People are going to continue to leave the state of New Jersey as there is pressure on the rich to be taxed more. They're going to leave, and then you're going to see that creep, shall we say, into taxing more and more of the middle class and those hidden taxes related to fees and other things. And that tax burden is ultimately going to fall onto the middle class. So we have to find some compromise in this in terms of how we're going to tax, how we're going to deal with the minimum wage, and, ultimately how we spend our money, because that is what's driving taxes in New Jersey.
Just to follow up, Guru, we have an unpopular governor who's a Republican. Doesn't this ultimately favor the Democrat Murphy for the general election race?
Well, on the surface, that would appear to be true. I mean, Chris Christie's popularity right now certainly isn't what it was, let's say, after Superstorm Sandy. So there's no question about Murphy's going to hit that hard. But on the other side of it, Kim Guadagno has to paint the picture of, listen, you're getting Jon Corzine Part 2. Here's a Goldman Sachs guy, a lot of money, spent $20 million on the primary, so he's a tax and spend liberal. Jon Corzine wasn't particularly popular, so I think if she has the ability to paint the picture that there was another unpopular governor, and if people have a long enough memory, and they may not, you may be able to paint that picture of him, and I think that will be effective for her. And I don't think that we should discount the fact that she's a woman. Half the population are females. If she could appeal to that demographic and address women's issues, I think that she can pick up some ground there and somewhat separate herself from Chris Christie in that regard.
It'll be a very interesting next 5 months as we head up to the general election and many races up for grabs.